evening to you and a warm welcome to Turf Talk, where we start the show off with an amazing story of a horse called Double Clutch. He recovered from the West Nile virus to return to racing. Michelle Wing files this report.
Double Clutch is still holding on, won't throw in the towel, and Double Clutch is going to win it. Double Clutch has won it.
He's a relentless galloper and he just does everything so effortlessly. When you ask him the question, he quickens up while he can come from anywhere, and that's the type of horses you want.
I never believed he'd be this good, and I don't think we've got to the bottom of it yet.
Now won 5 from 12, went off at R3.80 the tote word.
Double Clutch could very well have been named Double Take after his brush with death and West Nile virus.
We got the horse prepared for its first run, and it ran a very good race in the wet. And then unfortunately it contracted this virus. We didn't know what it was. We were really stumped, and the weight fell off and the legs were swelling up.
Double Clutch initially presented with a very high persistent fever or pyrexia, and his heart rate was very high as well. Those were the initial signs, and his blood work did indicate obviously a viral infection. He then developed sort of a transitioning lameness in his hind limbs, which would sort of become the ataxia part of it. So we did initially suspect a virus, but in horses there's quite a lot of things that can cause those symptoms. So we just basically treated him symptomatically initially.
Tara Oatley was working with me. She, Higgins as we called her, Higgins sat with that horse hour in and hour out, and there's photographs of them on the floor together. She's really trying to keep it alive. He was really not in discomfort, but the virus had him, and we were stumped, and suddenly Tara got ill, so we took Tara to hospital.
That's when the alarm bells sort of started ringing that it could be West Nile, because it is transmitted from horses to humans, just from touching them and sort of touching your face or your eyes or anything like that. And she had extremely close contact with him, and for a sort of prolonged period. So we actually insisted that the doctors test for West Nile on her. She did come back positive.
And she was diagnosed with West Nile virus. So suddenly we found out what it was.
West Nile is actually an arbovirus, which is its name, but it's basically transferred from initially birds that carry it, and then mosquitoes that feed off the birds, which then transmit it to horses when they feed on the horses. And it's a majorly sort of a neurological type, so you'll see nervous signs in a horse. But most horses actually go undetected, so only 10% of cases will show outwardly clinical signs. It being a virus, obviously we can't treat it with an antibiotic or a specific treatment as such, but we basically just treat them symptomatically. So as we see the signs, we try and control the temperature and the heart rates, etc., and try and make them as comfortable as possible.
Now we know how a bad West Nile virus is, having horses like Jetmaster die of it, but this guy lost 120 kilos, and Ralph stayed with him, and it was basically, today's the day we're going to put him down. And Roy was with me that day, and he said, you know, the virus, the swelling's moving from leg to leg, let's wait a day or two. And it must have been, I don't know, the horse just suddenly got out of it, and Tara sat with him every day, and he just started picking up, and we phoned Ash and said, no, the horse doesn't look like he's going to die, but we don't know what damage is done, and we'll just have to wait and see. And we nursed him back to health here, and he's turned out to be a top horse. He really is a top horse.
Yeah, the successful outcome of this treatment and the success that this horse has been able to achieve on the racecourse has really been through the attentive care of Tara and Paul and Roy from a nursing point of view, and then Dr. Bronwyn Keys with her medical attention. I mean, she was dedicated to trying to save this horse's life.
He subsequently turned out to be a very decent horse. He's won a good few races, and he's won by lengths. He's beaten good horses by a long way. He runs on any surface. He runs from the front, he runs from the back. He's just a very genuine hard hitter.
And Double Clutch went practically from pillar to post, slowed it down and won it. And Double Clutch has gone clear of the opposition now and is going to score. And Double Clutch goes on to score by 2.5 to 3. Double Clutch the winner. And Double Clutch is going to win it. Double Clutch has won it.
How common is West Nile virus in South Africa?
So over in the States, in America, it's a huge problem over there, and it's very, very common. But over here in South Africa, we were not supposed to have the disease a couple of years ago, but it's definitely emerging, whether it's come across to us or whether it's always been here and we just weren't aware in terms of testing it. We're not 100% sure, but it definitely seems to be coming up more often. Whether it's linked to climate change or, potentially something like that, that's are the thoughts. There is a fantastic vaccine that we have at the moment. I think it came across 2 or 3 years ago, and it's been registered here in South Africa. We do recommend horses be vaccinated because of the increasing prevalence that we're seeing of the disease. And it's quite a simple, cost-effective vaccine, and it's easy administered, and we don't really get any side effects from it or anything like that. And it's shown to work well. So you'll definitely get a decrease. It may not 100% prevent your horse getting West Nile, but the symptoms it may experience will be less. Yeah.
Vaccine is the way to go. I think we really got to look at using that vaccine and ensuring that we have the immunity in the population.
As for Double Clutch, he's showing no long-term effects of the virus, and exciting racing awaits him.
A few weeks ago, we featured part 1 of Brian Finch. This week, we take a look at his career in marketing and get his views on the marketing of horse racing in South Africa.
Where did the Brian Finch story begin?
Zimbabwean, born and bred. Parents Zimbabwean as well. I still got some family out there, so born, bred, educated. Joined my current employer in Zimbabwe, and being the good company that it is, I got a chance to take the international route, and so I've traveled a few countries and lived in a few places, and I'm currently here, South Africa.
How did your career come about?
Funny enough, I started in banking, Ravon, which I thought was a safe place to go and start my working career. At the time, BAT were going through a transformation, I guess, and I was part of the group that was selected to join their management program. So I thought, this can't be bad for the CV. I joined them thinking it might be relatively short, and 30 odd years later, I'm still in BAT and have seen a fair part of the world. So I'm grateful to the company for the opportunity that I've had.
What other roles have you filled over the years?
I spent some time in the UK where I had a sort of regional marketing job for Africa, Middle East. It was a great job, but it was actually too short. I had spent a prior stint in South Africa as the marketing director. I've also worked in Switzerland. I've worked in Nigeria, lived and worked. I've lived in the Congo, Kenya, and obviously Zimbabwe, where I started. So it's been quite an experience, quite a few varied places to live and work, but I've learned from all of them.
At the side of things, you certainly travel a lot.
Yeah, I have to say that the travel's more focused around head office now. You tend to spend a lot of time up in London, which I quite enjoy. I think it's a great city. And a fair bit of travel in the region, so within the country itself. And I also have a sort of oversight of the Southern Africa market. So I do get to go to the Angolas and Malawi, Zambias. I get to go back to Zimbabwe on business, which is quite nice. And Namibia, so sort of the Southern Africa area as well.
How much different is marketing your product in the Southern African regions compared to that in London and Europe?
Certainly within the Africa region or markets, whatever you do, if you do something particularly well, you tend to see a far greater impact, so bigger impact and quicker. Europe is a little bit more congested, and you tend to see movements that are, I don't want to say marginal, but they seem to be a bit more incremental. So I quite like the excitement of marketing in Africa, because if you get your product right and you get your whole mix right, you tend to see some pretty big changes, which is great.
Marketing racing has always been very difficult. With your marketing background, what do you think can be done to improve things?
We have to be building the sport, I think, Ravon, for the medium to long term. We're not going to see results tomorrow. And we have to accept that. I think it's like any business. You've got to be looking for the right indicators that we are doing the right things. And if younger people are starting to come, and a lot of people say, well, they're only coming for the party, or they're only coming for the band that's on, or they're only coming because it's a prawn festival. That's okay. In my view, that's absolutely okay. Get them to the venues first of all. We then have to supplement that a little bit by helping people understand, well, great venue, great party, but there's the horses, and this is what the racing is about. And in a very, very simple way, start to get people attuned to the fact that, yeah, horses are racing, this is how they race, there is a handicap in some instances, and start to explain the essence of the sport, and then get them back again. And I promise you, if we're getting 15,000 people coming to a racetrack, well, if we get 1/3 of those guys coming back again and back again and back again, that's a start. If we don't do that, well, I guarantee you we won't even have the 5,000 coming back in, and that's a huge problem for me. The second bit is I think we have to go young. I think kids coming to the race course and making the racetrack itself more kid-friendly, I think is important. I can only think back to my dad dragging us along and us running around with no shoes on the grass and thinking how wonderful it was to have all the space and watching the horses. And from that little involvement in racing as it was, today, now owning, breeding and being part of the industry. I think from small beginnings, these things can happen. It's actually free to go to a race course, and you go there on a Wednesday or a Saturday and it's empty. And it clearly tells you that we've missed a cohort of consumers who just don't see the relevance of racing today. So what's the first bit is to try and make the sport a lot more relevant, and that's a marketing effort. And I know there's been lots of criticisms about racing, it's a rush, how they've gone about it, etc. Having been a marketeer myself, I realize as well that you're not going to get everything right first time. I think the principle's correct. We have to start to repackage the sport as a sport. Yes, people gamble, but not everybody does. I certainly don't. I'm in the sport for the sport. So we need to repackage that and make that appeal to the next generation of people. And that's going to take investment, and it's going to take time. And I think all entities in racing have to do their bit. If I am critical of racing at all, it's that racing people talk to racing people. Just go to any of our functions, we see the same people time and time again, and that's great. But for those of us involved in racing, if you want to broaden it, you have to bring more people from the outside in, and we have to make it simple. Our language in racing is not the easiest of languages either, so it takes time for people to get to understand it. Once you do, people will probe and want to understand a bit more. So we've got a bit of work to do there, Ravon, to try and just market the sport, make it a bit more accessible to people, and easier to embrace people into racing, and I think from there it'll grow.
What would you say has been the most memorable race meeting you've ever attended?
I'd say the Derby has to be, because it's a race meeting that, again, as a kid, you kind of read about, saw some clips on television, and I never thought I would ever get to the Derby, especially in the style that, thanks to the hospitality of Investec, that I have been lucky enough to go. And I won't even pick one out. I think I've been lucky enough to go for the last 5 years, and each one has been different. Each one has been better than the last. I've got to see some magnificent horses, from Camelot to Australia to Pourmois, Golden Horn. It's just been phenomenal, and so I'd say the Derby, just because of what it means to all racing people, is probably the highlight. Investec do an amazing job, Ravon. They are world class. I think they've really shown sponsors in the UK in particular how it should be done, and worldwide. Their branding is unbelievably good. Camera shots are unbelievably good. From the minute you walk in, you know you're going into a world-class event. Attention to detail from Bernard and his team, Raymond, they are superb. And there's a lot, I think, that we can take out of the Investec effort here in South Africa to help us improve our events. And I see signs that we're starting to do that as well, Ravon. So I'm very hopeful.
Brian, what do you enjoy about the Summer of Champions season most?
The Cape season's fantastic, Ravon, and I can't wait for the onset of the season coming up now, from the Matcham out at Durbanville, and then when we get back to Cape Town and you start to have all the prep races, the Green Point, the Fillies Guineas, the Grand Parade Cape Guineas, which I think has grown fantastically well, and I love the work that Hassan and his team have done there, connecting it with kids who are lesser privileged, which I think is a good thing for racing. And then we build obviously into the Lormerance Queen's Plate, and then highlight with being the JNB Met. So that season is just fantastic, and there's great races all interspersed in between. I try not to take any holiday around that time, just so I can make sure I'm not missing any of the races. I love what we're doing with the Queen's Plate. I think it's fantastic. I think its positioning is great. It's elegant, it's classy, it's exclusive, but exclusive enough to make it aspirational without people thinking they can never get there. So I think it's just a fantastic race day. I think the Met is still a fantastic race day. It's gone from being extremely big. I've seen the numbers come down a bit. I don't know whether that's intentional or not. But it's still a great race day, great vibe. I love what they're doing with the Vodacom Durban July in Durban. Again, I've been lucky enough to go a few times. That seems to grow and get better every year. So I think the big events are definitely growing. I look forward to Gauteng really getting some traction behind, or greater traction than they do behind the Summer Cup. But I think it's coming. I can see the effort and I can see the improvement, and anybody who's gone to any of these race meetings has to feel that they are getting better year after year.
Brian Finch is an extremely passionate man when it comes to all spheres of racing, and he's positive about what the future holds.
The lead horse plays a significant role that many of us take for granted on any given race day. Andrew Bond tells us more.
As you can hear, the commentator's voice in the background tells us that there's a race in progress. And every self-respecting racehorse trainer will tell you that there are many facets to getting a racehorse to the race course. And once you've got the horse at the race course in the parade ring, it's sometimes quite difficult to get the horse from the parade ring all the way down to the start, and that's exactly where the lead horse comes in. And as a result of some international travel, Sean Patterson has seen how they do things in Dubai, how they do things in Hong Kong, Singapore, and other first world racing jurisdictions. And as a result, he's found a horse called Goldie, who has been of immeasurable value to South African racehorse trainers in getting horses to the start. Let's go and join Sean Patterson and Goldie and find out how the whole thing works.
Working in Dubai and Hong Kong, I saw how they did that with lead ponies. We threw Goldie in at the deep end. He led up a filly for Paul Matchett about 3 years ago, and he did it very well. And he just seemed to have a knack for it. And he has this ability with horses that are a bit difficult and get a bit hot, to calm them down. One very special horse in the same would be Yorker. I mean, he led up Yorker 9 times in Johannesburg, and he won 6 of the 9, including the Summer Cup. The horse of Richard Parker as well, he's also very, very highly strung. But Goldie just seems to have this knack of being able to get horses to chill and to calm down, and the jockeys as well. You were saying about the trainers. I know a few jockeys who swear by him, in the sense of Gavin Larino and Tom Marcus, and you know, he's got a very special place in my heart as well, because people don't understand how much work goes into getting a thoroughbred ready for a normal race, let alone a big race, and to have Goldie there to add that little cherry on top, you know, it's pressure, but he's done it so well. He's got such a good following, and Nico seems to love him too, which I appreciate, the pump, and Julie as well. And you know, I think he's very much an asset to racing. And I can't, you know, if somebody says to me, in the sense of not having Goldie or having Goldie, why not have the benefit of him? I mean, he's proven himself in more than one occasion. Like today, he's racing for Mr. Azzy, Pay As You Go. His last 4 lead-ups have been with Gavin, funny enough, but they've been 1 third and 3 winners.
Now, as far as the financial remuneration is concerned, obviously it must have taken a little bit of persuasion to get the stipendiary stewards to agree to it, because the price of survival has changed, but people also resist change. Was it an easy thing to get through in the initial phases?
It was, in the sense of having an asset of my stepfather, Peter Patterson. He put it across, and we decided to try it, seeing it was being done in America and being done in Dubai and that. And Fortunately, the first time he did it, he took to it like a duck to water. Financially wise, I'm not there to make money out of it. It's there to cover the costs. In that sense, Formula I'm very grateful to that point. But I also feel that they see the need of Goldie. They have been an asset. You know, if you have, like Yorker, being favourite for the Summer Cup, and let's just say hypothetically he's not there, and Yorker doesn't get to the start or something goes wrong, then suddenly you're looking what happens if we had done it. Rather do it before and not regret it.
Yorker, you name it, they got chances. Astro News, Royal Zulu Warrior, Master Sabina has been moving forward all the while now with Kalua Castle, Royal Zulu Warrior, Yorker on the inside, Master Sabina, Yorker, Talina between them. Yorker's finishing well. Here's the line, and Yorker has pulled it off to win the Sansui Summer Cup.
Sean, we've seen various different racing yards, whether it's Mike de Kock and Epol or Mike Bass and Equifeeds or whatever the case may be. Sponsorship always comes in very handy, particularly when there's wear and tear on tack and equipment and things like that. And John Booth, a passionate racing man, has come to your rescue as far as Goldie's concerned.
Very much so. You know, Peter Patterson approached John about 3 years ago, and he was very into the idea, and he's very much behind the sponsorship of Goldie. As you can see, Solo Saddlers have sponsored his blanket, his kit, his boots and all that, Mr. Booth supplies, and he's very forthcoming in helping in any which way he can in the tack and that with Goldie.
Deputy Judd is digging down deep. Uncle Tommy is quickening, but Deputy Judd is going to reign supreme. Deputy Judd, by 2 lengths, beats Uncle Tommy.
He's got his own personality, and I'm convinced when that big screen's on, he can see himself and he shows off. In the sense of him being relaxed, he just does it naturally. It's just something he enjoys doing. He can get a bit, if he doesn't work for 3 or 4 days, he can get a bit of a handful. I remember one day leading down, I think it was Gunter to the start, and it was after my wedding. He hadn't worked for 4 days and Mom hadn't told me, and he went ballistic, and Gunter actually turned around and said the lead pony needs the lead pony. Yeah. But in the other sense, he trots twice a week with the babies in the morning, twice a morning, sorry, with the babies in the morning, and then goes to the races. I think he's just got into that routine of it, correct. And I mean, when he walks into the parade ring, you just see he blows himself up like a python. He's like kind of, and the bottom line is I just think he enjoys doing it, you know, and he's a bit of a bully because he puts his ears back and that, and all the jocks, hey, he's going to kick, he's never, touch wood, he's never kicked in his life. It's not his style.
I suppose to a certain extent that there's an element of sadness to this whole story, is that you started riding him and then fate dealt you a really cruel blow.
Very much so, you know. Unfortunately, I can still walk and all that, but I mean, of all the things, I miss the race riding, but I miss riding Goldie because we had such a connection, you know. I'm very fortunate, and I have 2 work riders in the sense of Chamo and Bayer and my groom Rashid, who get on well with Goldie, because Goldie can take a hold when he wants to, but Rashid's such a horseman, and Chamo, that they've actually clicked into the position, and it's very fortunate for me that we could just continue it even though that I'm unable to do it myself.
The CTS Ready to Run sale, brought to you by Lanzarek Hotel and Spa, took place at Durbanville Racecourse last weekend. However, the graduates from last year's sale got to do battle in the Lanzarek Ready to Run Stakes at Kenilworth on Saturday. Let's take a look at what transpired. With the ready-to-run concept now a sought-after and popular route for many owners and trainers, there was plenty of interest from a wide spectrum of the racing community, and as always, Cape Thoroughbred Sales added their touch to guarantee another successful event. With all horses available for viewing from Tuesday, prospective buyers were eager to view their favourites in action at the gallops held at Durbanville Racecourse on Thursday. A quality catalogue with plenty of depth and variety ensured that there was some spirited bidding at the 4th CTS Lanzeric ready-to-run sale.
At 160,000 and sold. Thank you very much.
Wonderful draft, Vicky. There was really horses that drew the crowd today, and good gallopers. Horses were turned out perfectly, and I think everybody was happy with the sale.
Were you happy with your purchase?
Extremely happy. We went through quite a few horses, so we broke the sale with lot 1, and we were happy with it.
170 of the 192 lots catalogued were sold, realising an aggregate of 38,930,000. The average was 229,000 with a medium of 140,000. The highest price of the day was the 1.5 million rand paid for lot 100 by Mayfair speculators for a magnificent Bernardini filly, the daughter of a New Rev mare from an impressive US family that has produced 6 individual winners from 7 previous foals.
At $1,500,000 and gone. Thank you very much, Mr. Uester, Mayfair speculators. Thank you very much.
Kerry Jack Bloodstock paid 1.4 million for the highest price colt lot 65 from a family that has captured the ready-to-run imagination, a full brother to both Brutal Force and Red Ray, who were runners-up in the past 2 runnings of the Lanzeric ready-to-run stakes. The top 5 buyers at the sale were Mayfair speculators spent 6,845,000 buying 12 lots at an average of 570,417 rand. Rainbow Beach Trading spent 4,140,000 buying 8 lots at an average of 517,500 rand. Kerry Jack Bloodstock spent 2,430,000. John Freeman spent 1,805,000. Central Route Trading spent 1,655,000 buying 6 lots at an average of 275,833 rand. Our champion breeders Claverflay Stud were the top vendor at the sale, selling 31 lots with an aggregate of 9,845,000 at an average of 317,581, including lot 64 purchased by Green Street Bloodstock.
Green Street Bloodstock obviously really taking off, and are you happy with the growth of your company?
Yes, we're up to over 20 horses in the syndicates, and the racing managing side's going very well, and we bought the big horse today obviously for one of our clients, so everything's going very well.
Followed by Balmoral Stud with an aggregate of 8,490,000, selling 28 lots at an average of 303,214, including lot 26, the unnamed New Zealand bred colt by Nadim, bought by Mayfair speculators for 1.3 million, and lot 169, another New Zealand bred filly by New Approach, bought by Rainbow Beach Trading for 1.4 million rand.
At 1,400,000, going to your man Gift at $1,400,000. Sold 1,400,000. Buy, sir.
Suttendale Estate sold 13 lots at an average of 299,615, including the sales topper lot 100. Followed by Far End, whose highest price lot was 149, another imported filly by High Chaparral, sold to Mayfair speculators for 1 million rand. And Normandy Stud, whose draft included the highest price colt, bought by Kerry Jack Bloodstock. Of course, with this being one of the last opportunities to purchase a Western Winter, he was the top sire at the sale, selling 8 lots at an average of 518,875 rand, including lot 65 and this 900,000 rand purchase by Martin Wickens.
Selling for 900,000 all done. Barry, thank you. 900,000 buys him.
followed by 7th Rock, 10 lots sold with an aggregate of 2,605,000. Captain L sold 6 lots with an aggregate of 2,090,000 rand. Path Fork closely behind with an aggregate of 2,030,000 rand, and Bernardini selling only 2 lots with an aggregate of 1.8 million rand.
This year has been exceptional in terms of quality of horses, and the price has certainly showed it. A lot of interest and some nice international pedigrees, some nice local pedigrees, and the good horses really sold for money. Usually you come to a sale like this and you think you can buy a bargain, but today all the nice horses went for real nice money, and I think CTS must be very proud of the result.
I thought, obviously, with the pinhooking aspect of people going and buying weanlings from big stallions like New Approach and Sebring and the likes in Australia, coming onto a sale like this is always going to attract big money for those type of horses. So I think the buyers and the sellers are all very happy.
I think there was a horse for everyone in the industry, from the very expensive one to a couple of nice horses that went for decent prices. So I think everyone was catered for, and it just keeps getting better and better.
After another successful CTS sale at Durbanville, it was time to head to Kenilworth on Saturday to enjoy a sophisticated day which included high fashion, delicious food, fine wine and top-class thoroughbreds at the Lanzarek Ready to Run Stakes. The 2.5 million rand Lanzarek Ready to Run Stakes is a prestigious horse racing event presented by Cape Thoroughbred Sales, and since its inception in 2013, it has become a highlight on the annual horse racing and social calendar in the Western Cape. Racing is full of mystery, and few pundits anticipated the rich prize going to son of disregarded stallion Lithuanian.
They're ready to go. Racing in the Lanzarek Ready to Run Stakes presented by CTS.
The Bay jumped smartly from a favourable draw of 5 and raced up front throughout. Jockey Anthony Delpeche had merely to guide the gelding around safely at a high cruising speed over the 1,400 metre distance to freewheel in 4 1/4 lengths clear.
As they straighten up in the Lanzarek Ready to Run Stakes presented by CTS, it's Budapest from 7th Plane. Captain Chaos got a dream run on the inside rail. Up the middle we got My Emblem. Then comes the stone throw Elysian Park, being followed by Anglet and Leisure's Racing. Further back it's Budapest with 200 metres left to go. He's finding more in front. Captain Chaos under the stick. Up the outside we got 7th Plane, but they're all chasing shadows as Budapest puts 3, 4, 5 lengths ahead of himself and the rest. Budapest wins it from Anglet.
The filly Anglet by Biarritz, who made a belated rails run from the rear to get up for second. Captain Chaos by Captain L raced handy to secure third, with 7th Plane by 7th Rock fading into 4th spot after trying in vain to overcome a wide draw of 18.
Gavin, you'll be delighted with that because that was really impressive.
Yeah, actually delighted is an understatement. First and foremost, I'd like to congratulate Lanzarek and thank them for the wonderful sponsorship and a fantastic day. Cape Sales Company on a great initiative. I'm really privileged to be part of such a wonderful event. They really have excelled, and without these fantastic sponsors, what would we do in horse racing? Spencer Cook, the breeder, and congratulate him. He really was inspirational in me buying this horse, and I can't thank him enough, and I can't congratulate him enough. He's a wonderful character to have around horse racing. Brian Bernard, without him, we certainly can't do this, and we're so very grateful to Brian and Yolanda and Nadine and Victor for their wonderful support, and to Brian especially. He's wonderful owner for the game. He's charismatic, and there's only one Brian Bernard. Well done, Brian. Thank you very much.
Mr. Brian Bernard, 1.25 for first place. How do you feel?
All I need to say is thank you to Gareth, and I'm very proud of him. And we knew this horse had a chance, but there's always been a big problem at the starting gates, and we were very wary of that. And thank you to Milan for actually taking him into the gates today. And yes, very proud of the horse.
We believe in excellence. We believe that if you're going to do something, you do it to your best ability. We aim to make Balmoral #1 in the Southern Hemisphere, not just South Africa.
What a Winter and Twice Over are both managed by John Freeman, and their first crop of yearlings will be available at the Cape Premier Yearling Sale in 2016. Let's take a look at their stallion profiles, starting with Twice Over.
Just behind them, Fame and Glory under pressure. Then follows City Leader and Sariska, but it's Twice Over who hits the rising ground in front from Pipe Dreamer. Marwood Thief running home strongly, but Twice Over out in front is going to win the Champion Stakes for Henry Cecil. And it's Twice Over with a big Campbell shows in front of Vince against the round in second place. Behind this big Invitar, but it's Twice Over now on a great day for Henry Cecil. It's Twice Over is going to be the 11th dual winner of the Champion Stakes. To Vindicatar, Debussy, and then Gitano and Naka. Twice Over continues to be in front. He's about 3 clear. Shree Pruta, the outsider, in second position with Viscount Nelson, but as they race towards the line, Twice Over in front. He's idling a little bit in the closing stages, but it's a fourth corridor clip for Henry Cecil.
Twice Over on the near side is bearing down on her. Twice Over at midday. The Abdullah pair dive for the line together. And it's Twice Over's jump on international for Sir Henry Cecil and Ian Morgan in the colours of Khaled Abdullah.
I'm really, really delighted he's got a good stallion job, because if a horse ever deserved it, it's him. And I think you'll be getting progeny that are very genuine, and certainly would give you, if they're anything like him, they'll be giving you 110%.
What a Winter was a unique racehorse blessed with precocity, speed and a brilliant temperament. The lightning-fast sprinting son of Western Winter won 15 races, including 4 Grade 1s, the Computerform Sprint, the Cape Flying Championship twice, and the Mercury Sprint. In short, he was a world-class sprinter.
What a Winter is flying down the inside, and What a Winter has won the Computerform Sprint. What a Winter, what a sprinter.
What a Winter's first crop of foals arrived on the ground in 2014. His foals are balanced with plenty of size and scope, and he has been extremely well supported by breeders in both of his first 2 seasons.
Access the world's best sires at the Inglis 2016 Yearling Sale Series. Sires represented include Redoute's Choice, Fastnet Rock, High Chaparral, Street Cry and Medaglia d'Oro. Join the most elite judges of the thoroughbred world at Inglis in 2016 as they select their next champion of the track. For more information, visit inglis.com.au.
We have a special guest on the Breeding to Win show this evening. It is Simon Vivian, all the way from Australia, manager of Inglis Victoria. Simon, great to have you on the show with
Julie,
us.
it's great to be here. Wonderful to be back in South Africa.
What brings you to South Africa this time of the year?
Julie, what we do is we come over this time of the year each year. We've got the great racing, obviously, here at Turfentine, and then also great racing the following Saturday down at Cape Town at Kenilworth. And we come over to just try and catch up with all of the owners and trainers that have become great clients of ours in Australia and encourage them to think about coming back in 2016.
Yeah, you got great sales, obviously, around that time of the year, early in 2016. Before we get on to the sales, though, I have to ask you, what do you think about South African racing? Do you enjoy it?
I love it. Look, the atmosphere at the races is fantastic. Now, maybe I'm very fortunate that we actually come on days such as Summer Cup Day, Cape Fillies, Guineas, J&B Met, Durban July, those sorts of race meetings when there's a fantastic crowd and great atmosphere. But I think the one thing that's probably underrated by a lot of people is the quality of the horses at the top level. And when you see a horse like Variety Club, for example, go and travel internationally, you know what a champion is and you know what champions can be produced here. So your racing is very, very sound.
I know you guys are very proud of your horses here in South Africa that do so well, but I have to say, South Africa do hold their own around the world. And as you mentioned, a horse like Variety Club, you don't get that too many opportunities of our horses travelling overseas. But when they do get there, they hold their own.
It's a real shame that the horses can't get out of South Africa. I know that on my very first visit, I think it was the first time that Pocket Power won a J&B Met. And I walked away from the racecourse thinking, I've seen a horse that should be going to Australia and winning a Cox Plate. Sure. So, the frustration must be immense for the owners in South Africa, having really high-class racehorses, not being able to travel them internationally without having to go through a long exercise. But look, maybe let's hope that those barriers get broken down in the future, because I would love to see some of these South African gallopers coming to Australia and running through our spring as well.
I think that's what's so great about racing, is you want the best horses to race at the top level. whether they're South Africans, whether they're Australians, you want to see how good these horses actually are. And I think that's what creates the vibe, and that's what draws the attention to racing.
Absolutely. Look, I think Australian racing very much embraces internationals, and it's great if horses are being sold in Australia to come and race in South Africa. If they were then able to come back and race in Australia, we would be delighted. The internationals that come into Melbourne for the Spring Carnival is quite strong now, and we really love that. You want to race the best against the best in the world, and I think that the frustration, as I said, of not being able to get out of South Africa probably breaks all of us down a little bit. But maybe, as I said, maybe time will heal that one.
Absolutely, let's hope. Fingers crossed. Simon, you've got good support from the South Africans for your sales?
We've had fantastic support, Julie, to be honest with you. When we started, there was a couple of people came, Jahan, Dean Kanemayer, Joey Ramsden came, and since then we've worked pretty hard on developing the market here. But we've been blessed with the number of people that we've got, and I think just about every major owner and every major trainer has either been to Australia or has been represented in the last 7 or 8 years. It's become a very significant buying bench. They come over for the Sydney sale, the Classic sale in February, obviously the Melbourne sale, which is the sale where Alboran Sea came out of and Igugu came out of. That's become a very, very popular sale, and then Majmou came out of the Sydney Easter sale. So each one of the sales has been a very, very useful tool to get horses from Australia to South Africa.
Now, you mentioned only a few of the graduates that have come out of those sales, but there's been so many more.
Look, we've been very blessed. I think in the last 5 years, and I've got some stats there, 179 horses have raced. 78% of those horses have won races, so that winner to runner ratio is fabulous. 93% of them have earned a prize, which has been terrific. We've had 25 individual stakes winners, 4 of those at Group 1 level, 21 black type horses. So it's been a very, very worthwhile exercise for the South Africans to come and do a bit of shopping in Australia.
Now, you're only halfway through your promotion for the sale. I mean, how's that going so far for you?
It's been terrific. Look, the way that we do it is we fly in, spend a week leading up into the Summer Cup, and catch up with all the trainers at Reichies, go out to Turffontein as well, go to the races. We get wined and dined fabulously, and I think Australians and South Africans share a very common denominator when it comes to enjoying good food, certainly enjoying good wine and loving sport. So for us to sit around a table as we've been doing has been fantastic. We head down to Cape Town on Sunday after the Summer Cup meeting, and we'll spend the week down there travelling around the Western Cape, and then fly home to Australia Sunday week. So it's pretty busy, but it's a great opportunity for us to go and see all the trainers and all the owners.
I bet it's lots of socialising, especially when you hit Cape Town.
It's it's socialising everywhere. The great thing with this job that we do is we often meet some clients for breakfast, then we have somebody for lunch, and then somebody for dinner. So quite clearly, we have to get home to Australia to go on a diet, because we honestly don't eat and drink like this at home on a daily basis. But it's very social. It's a lot of fun. I've been blessed to have been coming here for 8 years now, and I've got some people that have gone well beyond being clients. They're now really good friends, close friends that I'd love to see come back over to Australia, and when I come here, I can't wait to catch up with them.
You almost look at horse racing as a whole. And you look at the breeders, you look at the trainers, you look at the jockeys, the owners. It almost becomes one family across the board.
And it's amazing how much those bodies sort of cross over. I think it's become amazing now, the number of people that simply, because of their involvement in racing, you've got a common denominator and a contact point. So it's been terrific. As I said, the people that we've got, people like Mick Goss, for example, who's so good as a promoter, loves coming to Australia, but he's been also wonderful for me with introductions. And so many of the people that I've met here have also helped us develop that South African market that Inglis has got. With
the rand appreciating, how viable is it for South Africans to go over now and buy in Australia? Sure, Julie. Look, it's the currency exchange is a problem. We understand that, but unfortunately, it's a bit like the weather. We can't control it. Yeah. Look, I think when I first came, it was about 6 rand to the dollar. Now it's about 10. I think the only thing that I can say to the South African buyers is that if you can buy a horse in Australia and have it landed home here, and you ended up with a high quality racehorse, all of a sudden you forget about how much you had to pay or what the exchange rate was. So look, it's one of those things that as I said, it's a bit like the weather. I can't control it. So we just move on through it. How do Australians regard South African racing? I mean, we've discussed a little bit earlier on that we want to see the best horses compete. But I know with Australians, You kind of look at us South Africans and think, well, we don't have a great South African cricket team. We don't have a great South African rugby team because you beat us in everything. But how do you look at our South African racing as a whole?
I think what's been really interesting for me has been the evolving appreciation of South African racing in Australia. I think part of why that's occurred is that there's been an increased number of horses from Australia coming to South Africa to race. And all of a sudden, the Australian market sits there and looks at the fields now. When we see the fields for the Vaal or for Kenilworth or for Turffontein, we sit there and we go through them and look for Australian-bred horses. It's certainly switched the focus on. I think probably maybe 10 years ago, South African racing would not have been on an Australian radar. Now, I would say there's a lot of people that actually sit up of an evening and watch South African racing. The races that we've got coming up over the next 2 weeks. I have no doubt that there'll be a lot of people with red eyes in the morning because they've sat up to watch it. So there's a real appreciation developing now for South African racing in Australia.
Just before we round off, I have to ask you, we've got some good South African people taking their place in Australian racing, the likes of David Payne as a trainer. He was a top trainer in South Africa and he moved over to Oz a couple of years back, and 2 top-class jockeys in the form of Glyn Schofield and Jeff Lloyd. How were they welcomed in Australia?
I think that they were, again, very much embraced. I mean, David Payne is an outstanding trainer. He's having a fabulous run as well. Jeff obviously has had a few problems with one thing or another. Glyn has been terrific, and of course Glyn's son, Chad, is an outstanding rider as well. I think the academy that you've got in South Africa with teaching these young people to become jockeys and ultimately to become trainers is as good as anywhere in the world. And I think that you can look around the world now and look at Dougie White and look at the Marcuses and those sorts of people. For a country that doesn't breed a lot of horses, the focus of racing is fantastic here. And I think that there's quite extraordinary skills here in that area.
Well, we wish you all the best with the rest of your stay in South Africa. Really? We hope you enjoy the wine and the travelling and the food and the racing.
And the people. We're enjoying the whole lot, I can tell you now. That it is, it's terrific to be here and it's a great thrill.
Well, lovely to have you, and especially lovely to have you on the Breeding to Win show. I know you do a lot of sponsorships for our show, and we appreciate that. We wish you all the best for the sale and, of course, for 2016.
Thanks, Julie. Really appreciate it. Bye.
Thanks very much to Simon Vivian, all the way from Australia.
Access the world's best sires at the Inglis 2016 Yearling Sale Series. Sires represented include Reduced Choice, Fastnet Rock, High Chaparral, Street Cry and Medaglia d'Oro. Join the most elite judges of the thoroughbred world at Inglis in 2016 as they select their next champion of the track. For more information, visit inglis.com.au.
Well, that's it for this edition of Turf Talk. We will be back next week, the 6th of December, where we find out more about a jockey's health and fitness regime. We meet South Africa's own horse whisperer, Milan du Toit, and we chat to recently retired jockey Cole Nisius. From myself, Julie Alexander, and the rest of the Turf Talk team, until next week, good night.